Hey everybody, Seven here, and I'm back with another huge update to Planet Crafter. There's an entirely new resource to gather, there's 2 new machines to get, there's 2 new blueprints to unlock that you can find in the small chests, and there's the beginnings of a new zone to uncover. The new zone isn't fully operational just yet, and it's going to come in a later update, but I think I found the groundwork for it. There's also a new tool to unlock to put under your tool belt, and they've also created new game modes and a whole slew of options for adjusting not just new games, but also your pre-existing games. There's a whole lot to get into, and I'm not even sure where to start. Actually, let's go back to the menu, and let's talk about these new features that they've put in. So here at the new save file, you have a whole ton of options. So they still have the same collection of game modes, the relaxing, standard, intense, hardcore, all coming with the same pre-existing modifiers that they had previously. However, we now have creative and custom. So creative lets you build anything you want with no limits on what you have resources for or what you have unlocks for. The custom can make your game completely different from what the average base game is. So in the customization screen, you can actually see what the standards are for some of the various presets and how they affect the game. Now within this, you can also adjust where your landing site is, just as you always could. And they've also given you tailored control over what actually happens when you die. So maybe you want to play a hardcore version where you don't actually drop any of your items, or you don't have to run the risk of deleting a save file. This could work wonders for the people that are trying to work up the courage and the nerve to get into the hardcore mode on this without actually having to run through and start the whole game over again. So the ability to try to run a hardcore without your save file deleting could really let you get practice in on it. You can also adjust to make hardcore even harder than hardcore by further increasing just how fast your oxygen, water, and food drop. Also increasing just how fast and frequent the meteor action happens. There's even now a slider for how much energy all of your machines that you're going to be creating to terraform the planet are going to be using, and how much you'll need to generate. There's also specific toggles where you can free build anything. You can play with all of the recipes unlocked to begin with right at the start, or you can choose to have specific individual things unlocked. So you're really able to just completely tailor your game. Now, this option here can have some very wild gameplay experiences and can completely change up the way that your game is going to lay out and completely change your map. Let me show you what I mean by that one. So for this instance, just clicking that button, my fields are now completely littered with osmium and uranium. But that's not all. I turned on the creative menus so that I could give myself access to a couple of key items, namely the satellite and map rockets. So from this image, you can see that all of your standard locations, the locations are the same, but the resources that they produce are different. So here you'll see that what has traditionally been the iridium cave is now been turned into a super alloy cave. The sulfur no longer gives you sulfur, it gives you aluminum. The super alloy cave over here also gives you nothing and is apparently listed as cobalt. So I see a couple of problems with this, because if you randomize this, one of the things I noticed as I was looking through here is there is no uranium cave. So while the field itself is completely littered with uranium and it seems to be about as common as iron, you wouldn't be able to have it be a renewable resource by putting down an extractor somewhere and getting more uranium out of the ground. The same also appears to be said for sulfur on this map, so the randomized resources really does have a significant impact on how you would play your game. And you wouldn't be able to know that until quite a bit further into the game. Alright, but let's get out of here and get into another map because there is so much more to talk about. So now I'm back in the hardcore game, which is where I ended off on my last series on the game. So now we can talk about a few new machines that have been added, a few new unlocks that have been added, and all of the wrecks that have a fusion cell unlock, except for one, have had an additional room added to their layout, with a very impressive loot stash hidden behind them. So let me go show you where those ones are. So here we are at the wreck by the initial default starting location. You can already tell there's some very strange textures going on. This bright neon pink almost makes me think of it as a placeholder texture. So I think that all of the wrecks might also have some sort of facelift or something like that going on. This neon pink is actually still visible when you look through the satellite mapping screen as well. So that pink is actually there. It's not just some graphical bug that's going on for my current gameplay. Now, I was thinking about putting, spoiler warning ahead on this, but the thing is, all of the extras that were added immediately piggybacked onto the pre-existing ones that you already have unlocked if you have the fusion door unlocked. So once you get this, you'll immediately have access to what I'm about to show you now. So in this rec with the unlock, the round door is open, giving you access to a number of chests. But this room in the back has something very new. There are now, I've counted 3 safes. One here, one in the large capital-looking ship that's out in the desert, and one in the very large ship that is out by the waterfall. So as you can see, it really doesn't take too much to find them. Once you have the fusion door unlocked, they'll be relatively self-explanatory on how to get to them. So let's open this up and get into the treasure trove. They have been full of Terra tokens, and I mean completely full. They're also giving you the brand new element that they've introduced, as well as 1 or 2 of the new tool that they've introduced, which, as far as I can understand, is not producible. So this is how you make the optimizer, which is a new machine that they've just created, and we'll get into that once we get back to base. Obsidian is the new element that they've created, and as of yet, I have not found a location that will let you mine for it. I also have not seen it listed on the map screen, even after you have the map information rocket, with one exception. I have seen it listed there only under the randomized element generation. So it seems if you randomize your minerals, then you'll actually be able to mine for this. Possibly. So here we are at the large desert wreck, and you can see that the pink is prominently displayed on a number of trim pieces here. I have no clue what that means or what that is going to be in the future, but there's definitely been some unfinished aspects of the game already introduced a little prematurely. And there's one that I am going to show off and talk about a little later on. So let's get into this one, and I'll show you that they're all pretty easy to find, these new safes. So going to the second floor of the ship is where the unlocks usually happen. And you can see all they've really done was added a little bit of an extra room to give you the big safe. And again, with a massive pile of tokens. Also the fuse and the obsidian. Locating these big safes within the new room that is added to the fusion door unlock recs is going to be pretty important if you're playing on a pre-existing save. Because as I said earlier, I haven't found any way of mining the obsidian. I've looked at the map and I've never seen an icon that showed that the obsidian was there. I've laid down extractors in a number of other places and nothing has popped up with the ability to mine obsidian. So the reason I said that all of the fusion unlocks except for one has had an additional room attached to it is because it appears as though only the ships that have the fusion unlocks are the ones that have an additional room. The large ringed Stargate looking building, it has a fusion unlock in it, but it did not appear to have an additional room attached to it, at least not yet. So here I am up in the med bay section. And this door off to your right has been opened up to reveal another big safe. And this one came with not just the production multiplier, but also the energy multiplier fuse. And these two are very different items, and we'll get into that in a second. So an important thing to note as you're looking at my autocrafter here, it is not possible to create any of the multiplier fuses. However, there is a way to get them indefinitely through the trade rockets. So here you can see that there's actually a multitude of different fuses that have been added. Pressure, heat, plants, oxygen, and the production and energy ones. So let's get back inside. We'll get into the 2 new unlocks that you get through the standard blueprint ships, available through just the regular small chests. And then we'll get into the machine that these things actually go into. And as I said, I have a theory on where you might be able to mine the new element, but I haven't tested it yet, so we'll test that at the end of the video as well. So they've got 2 new blueprints to unlock. One being a new map that you can make, and the other being one that some people have really asked for, which is an interior wall. So now with some of your larger rooms, you can actually separate and cordon off different sections of them. which I imagine would come in very handy with the large new 3x3 room that you can unlock through the trade rocket. So the new map microchip is actually made in the Tier 2 crafting station. You don't need the larger, more advanced one, which does kind of surprise me because it appears as though obsidian is the final end stage element for the current stage of the game. So let's get one of these made up and see what it does. Well, unfortunately, it appears as though it might not be fully implemented yet. Either that or I'm missing something and I haven't figured it out. So I have it installed, which I can't imagine how it would go anywhere other than where all the other microchips go, the deconstruction, the constructor, the flashlight, etc. So I am completely unable to find where this goes. I've tried multiple combinations of buttons and different hotkeys and things. I can't find a way to make this go up. Now, I would imagine it's probably supposed to be somewhere in the tool selection of the gun that you start with. So it may not be fully implemented just yet. Now let's get into the new machines they've given us, the optimizers. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show off the Tier 2 optimizer because as of yet, I don't know of a way of renewably collecting obsidian ore. I do have a theory on it though, which I'm going to explore at the end of the video. So before I get into it, I just want to check my current power output, and it looks like I'm sitting at just over 35,000 kilowatts. Let's go see what happens. So now I'm standing in a room of my base that has a large collection of the fusion generators. So I want to put this optimizer in here just to see what the effect is. Now, as you can see, it has a radius of effect, just like what the Autocrafter has to show you just how far the thing can pull. This shows the ring of just how far it can activate other items. So when you're investing in whether you want to have increased oxygen output, increased energy output, this is definitely going to benefit the people that are putting them really close together and on top of each other, just like I have with these fusion cells. So let's throw the energy multiplier in and see what happens. Oh, everything's highlighted. Oh, and it even graphically changes so you can see which type of fuse is in there. Although it does appear to have a maximum amount of effect that it can have. Because even though multiple reactors are within range, it appears as though it's only affecting a group of them. So now let's check the results. So we appear to have gained about 110,000 kilowatts. So the effect on this is quite impressive. Now those results were only with the Tier 1 optimizer, so I really can't even imagine what the result would be with the Tier 2 optimizer. Okay, now just real quickly, I'd like to fly out to a section that I have a suspicion may be where we'll be able to start mining this stuff. Now, I haven't been able to confirm it on the map, as every time I open up the map screen and it shows all of the map locations for where to find the different resources, I still have yet to see it actually listed. But there is a new zone very close to the waterfall that does look like it may have promise, and I have a theory that it might be the new volcanic area that is currently in the works and currently under development. So as you can see, there's no resources on the ground. This is very far off the beaten path, definitely well beyond the scope of the map. However, given how dark the ground is, this definitely lends me to believe that this might be the future of the volcano area. So I just want to put down an extractor here just to see what it does. And what will you let me choose? Oh, just standard resources for now. That's fine. I definitely feel as though I'm attempting to jump the gun on some things that they don't fully intend on you doing just yet. So this has been the latest update from Planet Crafter. I'd definitely love to hear from you as to what your favorite aspect is or what you're most excited about. I actually think the customization might be the biggest feature that they've added. I had a few comments in my hardcore series that new players that were trying to emulate what I was doing because they started after me, there had been a nerf to the food and water consumption that hardcore players were going through, and that it seemed to be much slower than what I was going through. So with the new customization feature, you'll be able to make all of your food, water, and oxygen consumption go catastrophically quickly. It would also give an option to give newer players or some of the less experienced players an option of maybe just dabbling their feet in what the hardcore playthrough is actually going to be without having to have their save file deleted. And I think that's just great. Anytime a developer gives more options to the player to play the game the way that you want it to be played, is always going to be a huge win in my book. So while I am a little disappointed that I won't be able to put up any extractors to get this new resource, and I'm also a little disappointed that it appears as though the map anywhere function doesn't appear to be fully implemented, I still have never been more excited for the future of this game, and I cannot wait to see where it goes. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me in this update video to Planet Crafter, and I hope to see you in the next one. This is Seven. Bye.